Jai Shri Ram. Welcome to this evening's Ramayan recital. We are going to begin with the preliminary mantras. Sprinkle water on yourselves. Om apavitraha pavitro va sarvavasthangato piva yah smaret pundari kaksham sabhahyabhyantarah shuchi. Sip water from your right palm, once for each mantra. Om Keshavaya Namaha. Om Narayanaya Namaha. Om Madhavaya Namaha. Rinse your hands. Om Rishikeshaya Namaha. Om Govindaya Namaha. Om Madhusudanaya Namaha. If you have a kus ring, a peti, then you may place this on the ring finger of your right hand. Om Pavitreshtho Vaishnavyo Saviturvah Prasvah Utpunam Yachidrena Pavitrena Suryasya Rashmabhihi Tasyate Pavitrapate Pavitraputasya Yatta Kamaha Punetachakeyam. Using your thumb, apply a chandan dot on your forehead. Om Chandanam Bandhate Nityam Pavitram Papanashanam Apadam Harate Nityam Lakshmir Vasatu Sarvada. Light a lamp. Om Bhodipa Tvam Brahma Rupa Andhakara Nivaraka Imamayang Kritang Puja Grihastejo Pravardhaya. Om Deepaya Namaha. Sprinkle water around yourselves. Om Pridvitvya Drita Loka Devitvam Vishnunadrita Tvam Cha Dharyamam Devi Pavitram Kuruchasanam. Put your palms together and concentrate on Bhagwan as we read the Swasti Vachan. If you have flowers available, you may hold a flower in your palm as well. Om Swastina Indro Vridashravaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Starikshur Arishtanemihi Swastino Brihaskatir Dadhatu Om Payah Prithivyam Paya Oshadhishu Payo Divyantarikshe Payodhaha Payaswatihi Pradishah Santu Mahiyam. Om Vishnoratamasi Vishnoh Shnaptrestho Vishnoh Surasi Vishnurdhruvasi Vaishnavamasi Vishnave Tva. Om Agnir Devata Vato Devata Suryo Devata Chandrama Devata Vasavo Devata Rudra Devata Ditya Devata Maruto Devata. Om Dyahu Shantir Antarikshagvam Shantihi Prithvi Shantir Apah Shantir Oshadhayah Shantihi Vanaspatayah Shantir Vishvedevah Shantir Brahma Shanti Sarvagam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Sama Shantiredhi. Om Vishwani Deva Savitar Duritani Parasuva Yad Bhadrantanna Asuvaha. Concentrate on Shri Ganesh and Gauri Mata. Om He He Rambha Tume Yehi Ambika Triambakatmaja Siddhi Buddhi Pate Trayaksha Lakshalabha Pitu Pitah Nagasya Nagaharatvam Ganaraja Chaturbhuja Bhushitah Swayudher Divyai Pashankusha Parashvadheha Avahayami Pujartham Raksharthancha Mama Kratoha Ihagatya Grihanatvam Pujam Kratuncha Rakshame. Om Gananantva Ganapati Gunghavamahe Priyanantva Priyapati Gunghavamahe Nidhinantva Nidhipati Gunghavamahe Vasumama Ahamajani Garbadamatvam Majasi Garbadhamma. Om Bhurvaswah Ganapataye Namah. Om Ambe Ambike Ambalik लोके न मान्यते कश्चन ससस्यश्वक शुभद्रिकां काम्पीलवासिनीं ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुः Ambikayai Namaha. Think of all the places of pilgrimage, Ganga, Jamuna, Badrinath, etc. Om Tattvayami Brahmana Vandam Manasta Shaste Yajmaroha Virabhihi Ahedamano Varuneha Bodhyurishagwang Samana Ayuhu Pramoshihi. Concentrate on Lord Shiva. Om Namah Shambhavaya Cha Mayo Bhavaya Cha Namah Shivaya Cha Shivataraya Cha Shivaya Namaha. You may place your flower down. We are now going to do puja to Sri Ramchandra Ji. So if you have a murti of Sri Ramchandra Ji, you may make offerings on that murti, or if you have a picture of Sri Ramchandra Ji. And if you don't have any image or a picture, then put your palms together. Think of Sri Sitaram Bhagwan as we recite mantras. We're going to do Dhyan mantra. Let's think about Sri Ramchandra Ji. And you may hold a flower in your hand as we do this. Om Shri Ramachandra Raghupungava Rajavarya Rajendra Rama Raghunayak Raghavesham Rajadhiraja Raghunanda Ramachandra Daso Aham Adhya Bhavata Sharanagatoasmi Dhyayet Ajan Bahum Dhrita Sharadanusham Baddha Padmasanastam Pitam Vaso Vasanam Nava Kamala Dala Spardhi Netram Prasannam Vamam Karuda Sita Mukha Kamala Mila Lochanam Niradabham Nana Alankara Diptam Dhatada Marujata Mandalam Ramachandram Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedise Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha Shri Ram Ram Raghunandan Ram Ram Shri Ram Ram Bharata Agraja Ram Ram Shri Ram Ram Ranakarkasha Ram Ram Shri Ram Ram Sharanam Bhava Ram Ram Lokabhiramam Ranarangadhiram Rajiva Netram Raghuvanshanatham Karunya Rupam Karunakarantam Shri Ramachandram Sharanam Prapadhye. You may place your flower down on your bedi. Now we're going to do Avahan. We're going to invite Sri Ramchandra Ji together with Mata Sita. You may take a flower in your hand. Om Ayahi Bhagwan Ramah Jagadishwara Dayanidhe Prasanno Bhava Deveshe Namastubhyam Sada Vibhuha. Offer your flower. And now you may offer another flower in which we are offering a seat to Bhagwan Sri Ram and Mother Sita. Om Shri Rama Janaki Natha Ayodhya Pati Pahimam Asanan Divya Sarvesha Dasye Hantubhyamishwaram. Sprinkle water on the murti or the image. Om Raghavendra Kripanatha Narakarnavatarika Adyam Grihan Devesha Mama Sokhyam Vivardhaya. Offer water again. Om Kaushalya Sutta Shri Rama Narayana Namostute Argyam Grihan Devesha Sarvartha Siddhidayaka. Sprinkle water around the murti or the image. Om Manda Kinyastu Yadvari Sarva Papa Haram Shubham Tadidam Kalpidam Deva Samyagacham Yatam Tvaya. If available, you may offer some Panchamrit. Om Snanam Panchamritam Deva Grihana Purushoktama Anathanatha Sarvagya Girvana Pranati Priya. Offer water again. Om Ganga Godavari Reva Payoshni Yamuna Tatha Saraswatyadi Tirthani Snanartham Pratigrihatam. Offer 2 pieces of cotton, raw cotton, one as clothing and one as a Yagyopavita, a janev. Om Veda Sukta Samayukta Yagyasama Samanvite Sarvavarna Prade Deva Vasasi Pratigrihatam. Om Brahma Vishnu Maheshena Nirmitam Brahma Sutrakam Yagyopavita Danena Priyatam Ayodhyapatihi. Using your ring finger, apply a chandan paste dot on the murti or your image. Om Sri Khandam Chandanang Divyang Gandhadyam Sumanoharam Vilepanam Surasreshtham Chandanam Prati Grihyatam. Offer some colored powders if available. Om Abhiram Kumkumam Chaiva Sinduram Bhagyavardhanam Nivedayami Te Mata Grihana Parameshwari. Offer some rice. Om Akshatanscha Surasreshta Shubhradunascha Nirmala Maya Nivedita Bhaktya Grihana Parameshwara. Flower. Om Mallikadi Sugandhini Malatyadini Ve Prabho Maya Arthani Pujartham Pushpani Prati Grihyatam. Tulsi. Om Tulsi Manjari Bhirya Kuryat Harihararchanam Nasa Garbham Gyam Yati Mukti Bhago Nasanchayam. Wave the agarbatti around. Om Vanaspati Rasod Bhuto Gandhadyo Gandha Uktamah Agreya Sarva Devanam Dhupoyam Prati Grihyatam. Now you may wave the arti around. Light your arti and wave it around. Om Sajang cha Varti Sanyuktang Bahaninam Yojitang Maya Deepang Grihana Devesha Trailokya Timirapaha. Rinse your hands and then offer some prasad, whatever prasad you may have, whether it is fruit or naivedya, or you may have raisins, badam, whatever you have, you may offer that. Om Gritapakvam Havishyanam Payasam cha Sharkaram Nana Vidam cha Naivedyam Grihana Parameshwara. Sprinkle water. Om Sarva Papa Haram Divyam Gangeyam Nirmalam Jalam Achmanam Maya Daktam Grihyatam Parameshwara. Right, where available, you may offer a betel leaf, betel nut, a pinch of camphor, some cloves, and a coin. Betel leaf, betel nut, pinch of camphor, clove, and a coin. Om Lavankar Purayutam Tambulam Surupujitam Pritya Grihan Devesha Mama Sokhyam Vivardhaya. Now you must do Arti. Om Chaturvarti Samayuktam Gritena cha Sapuritam Nirajanena Santushto Bhavatvevam Jagatpati. Om Yanikani cha Papani Janmantara Kritani cha Anitani Vinashyanti Pradakshina Pade Pade. Boliye Shri Sita Ramchandra Bhagavan ki Jai. Rinse your hands and then do Namaskar for Bhagwan, for Mata Sita, and for Shri Ramchandra ji. Om Neelambodhara Kanta Kanta Manisham Veerasanadhyasinam Mudra Jnanamayi Dadhanam Aparam Hastambujam Januni Sita Parshva Gatam Sato Ruhakaram Vidyunibham Raghavam Pashyanti Mukutangad Adi Vidha Kalpojvalangam Bhaje Mantrahinam Kriyahinam Bhaktihinam Janardanam Yat Pujitam Maya Deva Paripurnam Tadastu Meha. We're going to do the Ramayan invocation, after which we will have the Chalisa. Om 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 Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। ध्यान मूलं गुरोर्मूर्तिः पूजा मूलं गुरोः पदं मंत्र मूलं गुरोर्वाक्यं मोक्ष मूलं गुरो कृपा। हे रामा पुरुषोत्तमा नरहरे नारायणो केशवा गोविंदो गरुडध्वज गुणनिधे दामोदरा माधवा। हे कृष्णा कमलापते यदुपते सीतापते श्रीपते वैकुंठाधिपते चराचरपते लक्ष्मीपते पाहि माम्। जय ही सुमिरत सिद्धि होय सीताराम गणनायक करिवर बदन करौ अनुग्रह सोई सीताराम बुद्धि राशि शुभ गुण सदन मूक हो वाचाल सीताराम पंगु चरहि गिरिवर गहन जासु कृपा सुदयाल सीताराम द्रवौ सकल कलिमल दहन नील सरोरुह श्याम सीताराम तरुण अरुण वारि जनयन करौ सुमम उरधाम सीताराम सदा क्षीर सागर शयन कुंद इंद समदेह सीताराम उमारमन करुणा अयन जाहि दीन परनेह सीताराम करौ कृपा मर्दन मयन वंदो गुरुपद कंज सीताराम कृपा सिंधु नर रूप हरि महामोहतम पुंज सीताराम जासु वचन रविकर निकर सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय। कथा आरंभ होता है सुनहु वीर हनुमान आसन को प्रभु आइए सिया सखा सहित भगवान सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय। We'll have the Ram Chalisa now.
नीलम्बुज श्यामलं कोमलङ्गं सीतासमारोपिता वामभागं पाणुमहासायकचारुचापं नमामि रामं रघुवंशनाथम्। जय बोलो श्री राम की जय बोलो तुलसी की जय बोलो श्री रामायण की जय बोलो श्री राम की जय बोलो तुलसी की श्री रामायण की श्री रघुवीर भक्त हितकारी सुन लीजिए प्रभु हर जहारी निश दिन ध्यान धरे जो कोई दासव भक्त और नहीं होई धन्य धरे शिव जी मन माई ब्रह्मानंद पार नहीं पाई जय 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 रघुनाथ कृपाला सदा करो संतन प्रतिपाला जय बोलो श्री राम की जय बोलो तुलसी की जय बोलो रामायण की दूत तुम्हार वीर हनुमाना जासु प्रभव तिनपुर जाना तव भुजंग प्रचंड कृपाला रावण मरि सुरन प्रतिपाला तुम अनाथ के नाथ गुसाई दीनन के सदा सहाय ब्रह्मादिक तव पार न पावे सदा ईश तुम्हारो यश गावे जय बोलो श्री राम की जय बोलो तुलसी की बोलो श्री रामायण की चारों युवेद भारत है साकी तुम भक्तन की लज्जा राखी गुण गावत शारद मन माई सुरपति ताको पार न पाई नाम तुम्हारा ले तो जो कोई दासव धन्य और नहीं कोई राम नाम है चितलाए, हरिदास हरि कृपा से अवश्य भक्ति को पाए। राम चालीसा जो पढ़े, राम चरण चितलाए, जो इच्छा मन में करे, सकल सिद्ध हो जाए। ओम श्री रामचंद्र भगवान की जय।
Dhanyavad Anish ji. We're now going to move into the recitals. We are reading from Doha 325 for this evening. You may follow on your screens. Mudita avadhapati sakala sutta bandhun samet nihar janupaye mahipal mani क्रियन सहित फलचारि सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। उमापति महादेव की जय। जस रघुवीर ब्याह विधि करनी सकल कुंवर ब्याहे तेहि करनी। कही न जाई कछुदाइज भूरी रहा कनक मणि मंडप पूरी। कंबल बसन विचित्र पटोरे भांति भांति बहुमोल न थोरे। रथ गज तुरंग दास अरुदासी धेनु अलंकृत काम दुहासी। वस्तु अनेक करिय किमि लेखा कही न जाय जानहि जिन देखा। लोकपाल अवलोकी सिहाने लीन अवधपति सबु सुख माने। दीन जाच कन्हि जो जेहि भावा उबरा सो जनवा से ही आवा। तब कर जोरी जनकु मृदु बानी बोले सब बरात सनमानी। सनमानी सकल बरात आदर दान विनय बराई के। प्रमुदित महामुनि बृंद वंदे पूजी प्रेम लराई के। सिरुनाई देव मनाई सब सन कहत कर संपुट किए। सुर साधु चाहत भाव सिंधु की तोष जल अंजलि दिए। करी जोरी जनकु बहोरी बंधु समेत कौशल राय सो। बोले मनोहर वचन सानी स्नेहशील सुभाय सो। संबंध राजनुरावरे हम बरे अब सब विधि भये। एहि राज साजु समेत विवेक जानिए बिनुगथ लये। ए दारिका परिचारिका करी पालवी करुणानई। अपराध क्षमी बोली पठये बहुत हो ढिठयो कही। पुनि भानुभूषण नृपल सकल सन्मान निज समधि किए। कही जात नहीं बिनती परस्पर प्रेम परिपूर्ण ही ये वृंदार कागन सुमन वर्ष ही राउ जनवासे ही चले दुंदुभिजय धुनि भेद धुनि नभ नगर कौतूहल भले तब नारी मंगल गान करत मुनीस आय सुपाई के दूल्ह दुल्हनिन सहित सुंदरी चली कोहबर ल्याई के पुनि पुनि राम ही चित वसई सकुचत मन सकुचैन हरत मनोहर मीन छवि प्रेम पिया से नैन सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय। Acha, so we are busy reading during this week of the marriage between Sri Ramchandra ji and Mother Sita. And the marriage has taken place. And of course, everybody are thrilled and happy at the successful way in which the marriage has taken place. तो यहाँ पर जिस दोहे से हमने आज शुरू किया था उसमें तुलसीदास कहते हैं कि मुदित अवधपति सकल सुत बंधुन समेत निहार। तो अवधपति राजा दशरथ है, he is the king of Ayodhya, therefore he is called Avadhapati. और अवधपति मुदित, he was very very happy, he was extremely elated. Bandhun sameta nihar, not just him but all his family and his sons were equally happy with him. And it is as though kriyanha sahita phalachari, it is as though he has achieved the char phal. So here the reference to phalachari, so he has attained चारों फल. इसमें कहता है कि मानो नृप श्रेष्ठ ने क्रियाओं के सहित चारों फल प्राप्त किए हो. It is as though he has performed all those activities which would have made him achieve charo phal. Now what does charo phal refer to over here? The charo phal here, which literally means four fruit, actually refers to what we in Sanatan Dharma call purushartha. Now the word purushartha actually means, it can be translated as goals of life. What is the aim of life? Purushartha refers to the aim of our life. What is the purpose of life? And so the purpose of life, there are four things that we want to strive for in our lives. The four pals are artha, which is economic values, kama, which is pleasure, dharma, which is righteousness, and moksha, which is liberation. So when Tulsidas says here, ki mano nripa shreshta, nripa shreshta means this very elevated king, which is Dashrath, ne kriyao ke sahit, has performed those activities, jisse charo phal prapt ke, which through which he has obtained the four fruit. The four fruit that they are talking about here is this four: artha, kama, dharma, and moksha. So the purusharthas, why are they important? They are important because they assist us in creating a satisfying, balanced, and meaningful life. So these four goals actually help us to balance our lives. See, in our life, we need dharma. We need righteousness. We need to live life according to the highest moral principles. But we also need artha in our lives. So we also need economic, we need to engage in economic activities. However, whatever economic activities we engage in, it must be in accordance with the principles of dharma. It must be righteous economic activity that we engage in. We are also entitled to enjoy certain pleasures of life, kama. But again, the pleasures must be within the confines of dharma, of righteousness. And once we have engaged in economic activity and we have accumulated artha in a dharmic way, and we have enjoyed the pleasures of life in a dharmic way, then we attain the last thing, which is moksha, liberation. So these purusharthas help us to lead a balanced and a meaningful life. Clearly, too much of righteousness, too much of dharma may not be the perfect way of living a life. There should be some pleasure in life. There should be some economic gains in life. But where there's too much of emphasis on artha, with where we de-emphasize the others, then that's not a balanced life. So the purusharthas then encourage us to ask ourselves at regular intervals in our lives, are we managing our lives in a way that supports our spiritual growth? This is the question we must ask ourselves, and purusharthas help us to ask that. So to discover our dharma, we should study the sacred teachings and learn from the examples of highly evolved people. So that is the four purusharthas. So here, with the marriage that has taken place between Sri Ramchandraji and Mother Sita, Raja Dashrath feels as though he has done all those things that he should have done, and he has attained these purusharthas. So he has reached a successful end, so to speak, to his life. Tab jas raghuveer vyada vidhi karani sakal kuwar byahe tehi karani. Now Tulsidas says, just as the wedding of Sri Ramchandraji was done in accordance with the vidhi, with the laid down procedures, in the same way, Sakala Kumara, the other bachelors, that is Bharat, Lakshman, and Shatrughna, were also married following the same procedure. So there was no deviation from what has been laid down in the scriptures. So there is a prescribed way in which weddings need to be done, and no shortcuts were taken. So they didn't say that we finished do a full detailed marriage for Sri Ramchandraji and for Mother Sita, now we can take a shortcut for the other three brothers. No, they followed the entire procedure, right? Nobody asked for it to be shortened. So the Havan, for example, was done exactly as it was done for Sri Ramchandraji. All the rituals that were done for Sri Ramchandraji were done for the others, because the procedures and the vidhis that have been laid down are important, and they have significance for the two people that are getting married. Okay. Kahi na jai kachu daij bhuri raha kanak mani mandap puri. And then Tulsidas says the number of gifts, the amount of gifts that were given, that cannot be described. And it was made up of suvarna, of gold. It was made up of precious gems. Blankets, kambals were given. Vastra, clothing was given. Rang birange kapre, all different colors of clothing were given. Expensive items were given. Even elephants, hathi, ratha, chariots, horses, They even sent along maid servants and male servants as well. Right? All kinds of different adornment. These all were given as gifts. And the word that is used here in this in the Avadhi is, it says kahina jai kachu daij bhuri. Daij is the hedge. So it means that Raja Janak gave the hedge. He gave gifts to the family of the groom. Now, of course, when the word the hedge is said or is mentioned, immediately, I'm sure, a whole flood of negative ideas comes into our head, right? So we may be wondering, but how can Sri Ramchandraji and all accept the hedge? Because the hedge is such a bad thing. The hedge has resulted in so many people, ladies being killed. We're reading about these things happening especially in India, where it is quite a popular thing to give the hedge. And there are lots of demands that are made by the groom's family of the bride's family. So the question then is, how can Sri Ramchandraji have allowed something like this? Okay, so firstly, let's not think of the hedge in the way in which we see it in the modern day, the way in which it is practiced right now. The dowry system, the way it is practiced, is not the way in which it was prescribed and described and shown in the scriptures. So now I want to take us to Valmiki's Ramayan, right? Because remember, Tulsi Das, he wrote this Ramayan Ram Katha in Avadhi after Valmiki. Valmiki was the first person to write Ram Katha, right? So it makes sense that let's go and see what does he say. Right? He says, Atha and the Sanskrit is Atha Raja Videhanam Dadau kanyadhanam bahu. So Atha Raja, the king, Videhanam, who belongs to the lineage of Videha, what did he do? Dadau kanyadhanam. He gave kanyadhanam. Now this is not kanyadan. Kanyadan is something else. Here the word, Sanskrit word is kanyadhanam. Kanyadhanam is riches. He gave lots of gifts. Kanyadhanam. So in the original Sanskrit, the word dahej is not used. What is used is the word kanyadhanam, right? And the verse goes on to say, Gavam shatta sahasrani bahuni mithileshwarah kambalanam cha mukhyanam chauman koti ambarani cha hasti ashwa ratha padatam divya rupam swalankritam dadau kanya shatam tasam dasi dasam anuktamam. Now, the reason I read this whole thing is because Tulsi Das uses the word dahej, Valmiki used the word kanyadhanam, but after that, whatever Valmiki says is what Tulsi Das also says. He says, Gavam shata sahasrani bahuni mithileshwar kambalanam. So Tulsi Das says kambal, he says kambal vasan vichitra patore, and Valmiki also said kambalana. Then he said hasti ashwa ratha badatam. Hasti means, hasti is Sanskrit word for hati. So even Tulsi Das says hati was given. Ashwa is Sanskrit word for horse, and Tulsi Das uses the word ghora over here. Swalankritam. Swalankritam means different kinds of adornments, and Tulsi Das uses the word alankritam. So Tulsi Das is using the contemporary language for kanyadhanam. In Valmiki's time, it was called kanyadhanam. By the time Tulsi Das wrote, the word kanyadhanam came to be called dahej. And the unfortunate thing is that the way in which we see dahej today, it is seen in negative terms. But we mustn't think of dahej in the way in which it is used today, because then it was considered kanyadhanam. In fact, kanyadhanam then was willingly given, and Raja Janak willingly gave all these precious things without the groom's family demanding it. And in fact, during the Vedic times, kanyadhanam was a kind of inheritance. So, unfortunately, Hindu law did not allow for the daughter to inherit. Although in practice now, we encourage that the daughters should also inherit from their parents. But what used to happen was during the Vedic times, during the Puranic times, there was kanyadhanam. The daughter was given her inheritance at the time of her wedding, rather than waiting for the death of the parents for the daughter to inherit. And she could then use that as a conjugal fund. In other words, she could use it in her marriage for herself. She could also use it for her children, but it could also provide financial security for her in the unlikely event that she would become a widow, or that she might have a negligent husband. That is the reason why Kanya Dhanam was given. So the whole purpose of Dahej was to provide financial security for the daughter, but also to ensure that she gets what is rightfully hers from her parents' side. So let's understand Dahej in that sense there. So all these expensive items were given. Vastu aneka kariya kimi lekha. So vastu anek, many things were given, jiska ulekh nahi ho sakta, which cannot be described, right? कहीं न जाय, इसका वर्णन नहीं हो सकता. तुलसीदास कहते हैं कि वहां पर इतना धन इत्यादि दिया गया था कि उसका वर्णन नहीं किया जा सकता. इट कैन नॉट बी डिस्क्राइब्ड. क्योंकि जिन्होंने देखा वही जाने. You would have had to be there to experience it to know exactly what kind of things were given. Lokpal avaloki sihane लीन अवधपति सब सुख माने. The Lokpals, when they saw for themselves, observed what kind of gifts were given, they were really astonished at that. Now, who is Lokpal? A few evenings ago, you would have read that when the puja was being done, then puja was done to Ganesh Gauri, and it was also done to the Lokpal. So the word Lokpal appeared in one of the previous chopais, and the word Lokpal appears here again. Lokpal means the guardians of the 8 directions. There are 8 Lokpal. So there are guardians in each of the 8 directions who are protecting us. So you've got Kubera, who is the god of fortune, who is protecting from the north. You've got Yama, who is the god of justice and death, who is protecting from the south. Indra, who is the lord of heaven and the god of weather, the god of the sky, the rain and the storms, who's protecting from the east. Varun, who is the god of the seas, the oceans and the rain, and he's protecting from the west. Ishana, which is the god of birth, death, resurrection and time, who is protecting from the northeast. Agni, god of fire, who is protecting from the southeast. Vayu, the god of the winds and air, who is protecting from the northwest. And then Nirti, who is the god of death, sorrow or decay, who is protecting from the southwest. So these are the Lokpals. And I'm mentioning it because in a previous Chopai, the word Lokpal was done, and Lokpal Puja was done by Janak and others before the wedding was done. So they prayed to the guardians of the 8 directions who provides us with protection. So even they were astonished at the kind of gifts that were given. Now, just to further emphasize that there was no greed on the side of Raja Dashrath and the grooms for any kind of gifts and all that. It says here that Deen ha jaach kanhi jo jehi bhava. All the gifts that Dashrath received, those who were present there, whatever they desired, jehi bhava, deen hai jaach kanhi. So whoever requested, desired any of the gifts that was mentioned earlier on, Dashrath gave that to them. So if there was greed involved here, if the idea was for the Raja Dashrath to amass all this wealth from Janak and hoard it for himself, then why would he have done this? So Tulsidas says, Deen jachakani jo jehi bhava. Whoever wished what for what, they were given. And ubaraso janawa sehi awa. And what was left, what people did not want, that was sent to the Janwasa. Now, Janwasa is a special place where the groom's people are housed, where they are given a place to sit. So only after those who wanted whatever gifts were, chose what they wanted, then only did they go in, did they take what was left to the Janwasa. So that's why you understand how this kanyadhanam worked in the ancient times. तब हाथ जोड़कर राजा जनक जी मधुर बानी से सब बारात का सम्मान करके. So you notice, and you would have noticed throughout this week, the deep respect with which Janak has treated not only Dashrath and the 4 sons, but all those who came in the Bharat. So there was no discrimination of giving special treatment to one and not treating others specially. He personally respected and invited and welcomed all of them. And he gave a lot of man, a lot of respect to them. He behaved in a very dignified way with them. He praised them. The munis, all the rishis and the sages that came, he also treated them with a lot of respect. And remember that we would have learned earlier in the week that they did Ganesh Gauri Puja, they did all these pujas, and the gods, we are told, disguised therefore in different forms, and they came to this wedding. So Janak has given all of them respect, and he has given them the best treatment. Then Janak, with all his family, they addressed Raja Dashrath. They said to him, "Hey Rajan, O king, आपके साथ संबंध करके हम सब अब सब प्रकार से बड़े हो गए." Says, we as ourselves regard ourselves having elevated ourselves to a higher level simply by the relationship that you have established with us. So he is saying that we were nothing. We have now become well-known people because of the relationship that has been established with you, with Dashrath. That's what Raja Janak is saying. आप हमको इस वैभव समेत बिना मोल का अपना दास जानिए, and we want you to consider us to be your servants. So this is the bhav, this is the attitude with which Janak is approaching Raja Dashrath. He is approaching him in all humility. And he makes a request. He says, "In kanyaon ke को अपनी टहलनी समझकर इनका पालन करना." Please consider them to be your own daughters, and take good care of them. In other words, he's referring to Mandavi, Shruti Kirti, and Urmila, the other 3 daughters, including, of course, Mother Sita. He says, "Aapko jo humne bula bheja." He says, "We called you here. We asked you to come here for this wedding. So hamara aprad kshama karna. Please forgive us for this. We were arrogant. We should have actually come to you, but we sent a message." Because remember, Ram Chandraji and Lakshman, spotted Mother Sita while they were with Vishwamitra. And then when the decision to have the marriage took place, the message was sent to Dashrath to come with the Bharat. So he's referring to that event and he's saying, we sent for you and told you to come here. And we want to ask for forgiveness for that. क्योंकि हमने बहुत ढिठाई की, because we were very arrogant in thinking that we can call you away from there. Suryakul Bhushan, Dashrath ji. So Dashrath is the jewel of the Surya Vansh, of the family of Suryas. Dashrath ji ने अपने समधी, that is Janak को सब प्रकार से सम्मान किया. And what did Dashrath reciprocate? In what way did he reciprocate? He also showed the same kind of respect to Raja Janak. So you see, all of us at some time or the other will have children who will marry. Let us learn from the behavior here that in-laws don't have to be in competition with each other. Let us learn from Janak and Dashrath and look at the revered way in which they treat each other. There is no competition. There is no, you are higher than me or I am lower than you. Janak is showering love, affection, and respect on Dashrath. And Dashrath is not saying that we are from the boys' side, therefore we must be given special treatment. No, he is also giving that samman. Aapas mein prem, bhare hriday se, jo vinti ki vah kahi na. And aapas mein prem. So the love was not from one side. The affection and the respect and the dignity was coming from both sides. Aapas mein prem. Aur Maharaj Dashrath Janwase ko chale gaye. And after all this happened, they returned to the Janwasa, to the special place that was allocated for the groom's people. Us samay, at that time, Devtagan pushpa barsane lage. So they began to shower blessings of flowers. Nagare bajne lage. They began to play musical instruments. Jai Jaykar. People were singing out Jai, victory. Or Ved Dhwani hone lagi. So there was also Ved Dhwani. Ved Dhwani means they were reciting Ved mantras. Like we recite Ved mantras, Swasti Vachan and all that. Swasti Vachan is for our own well-being. Swasti Vachan is to remove negative and destructive forces. That is why we recite the Swasti Vachan, which you are all familiar with. We do this on a weekly basis at our satsang. Not only the Swasti Vachan, we read Ano Bhadra Kratavo Yantu. We are asking for noble thoughts to come to us from all sides. And you will notice, and this has been a theme throughout this week, that yes, there was fun. Yes, there was tamasha. Yes, there was music. But it was all done with the necessary and the relevant Ved Patrad. The Ved mantras were not neglected. So even here too, as they are returning to the Janwasa, the Ved mantras are being recited. Akash aur nagar mein anandamaye khel tamashe bhali prakar hone lagi. So there was khel, there was enjoyment. Vashishtha ji ki agya pakar sakhiya mangal gan karti hui. दुल्हिनों सहित दूल्हे को लिवाकर कोहबर में ले चली. So Vasisht gave the instruction to the sakhis, to the friends of the princes, that is Sita, Mandavi, Shruti Kirti and Urmila. And he said, singing auspicious songs, take the brides together with their grooms to the Kohabar. Now, a few things to understand. Earlier, you would have, in the week, when the time was right for the wedding to take place, Vasishtha approached Shatanand and told him, now is the time to bring the Rajkumari, to bring Sita. You notice there, who gave the instructions for the bride to be brought to the mandap? It was Vasishtha, who is the Kul Guru of Raja Dashrath. Whom did he give it to? He gave it to Shatanand, who is the Kul Guru of Raja Janak. Now, why should the Purohit, the Kul Purohit, have the privilege of calling the shots at the wedding. Because the word Purohit is made up of two words. It made up of Puras, which means uh, in the forefront, right? And Hita means to be placed. A Purohit is one who is placed in the front. So, in other words, the Purohit is one in whom a family has full confidence that he or she can lead from the front. See, if we want somebody to give us directions, we can't take somebody who has poor eyesight to lead us, because he lead us into darkness. So likewise, when we have a Purohit, we must have a Purohit like Vasishta, who is wide awake, who has knowledge of the Vedas, who has studied all the rituals, and who knows what the vidhis are, so that they can lead from the front. We cannot call ourselves Purohit if we cannot lead from the front. And they knew how to lead from the front. Therefore, notice neither Dashrath nor Janak nor the queens decided when the Rajkumaris must come, when they must be taken back. It was the Purohit who was deciding that, because such was the caliber of the Purohit at that time. Compare that to today, of how some Purohits are left in the lurch, so to speak, at weddings, and given least importance, and everything else is given more importance. But then the Purohit needs to earn the respect. Right? So Vasishta ne agya di, he gave the agya. Right? So Purohits will get that respect if they behave like Vasishta ji. Then they were accompanied with Mangal Gan. They were accompanied with auspicious song, and they were taken to the Kohabar. See, a lot of the traditions that we had are slowly disappearing, right? A Kohabar was a room where much of the wedding rituals and customs used to be done. Now, those of you who experienced this, you'll know what I'm talking about. The Kohabar was a room where pictures used to be drawn on the wall, right? Or actually, the wall used to be decorated with different colors and with pictures. And this is where the rituals used to be conducted. So the bride and the groom used to be taken back into that room, and there lots of fun activities used to be held, which, as I said, there's place for fun activities in our weddings, right? So for example, looking for the ring in the water and all that was done in the Kohabar. And like that, there were other rituals that were done. So a Kohabar was set up, a special room was set up for the rituals to take place. There were pre-wedding rituals that had to be done. This was done in the Kohabar. There were post-wedding rituals that had to be done. That was also to be done in the Kohabar. Unfortunately, that is disappearing today. Now, that is a tradition that is worth keeping. We want to throw away lots of traditions, right? Some of them have actually outlived their purpose, but there are some lovely traditions that still exist, right? And so they have great significance. Right? In fact, in ancient times, the bride and the groom were kept in this room for 4 or 5 days after the wedding, right? And you'll be surprised to learn that 4 or 5 days after being kept over there, they had to go through the entire wedding process again. A second wedding was done for them, right? I am not by no way suggesting that we should do that again, right? Because you can only commit a mistake one time, right? All right. Sorry, Benjis, I don't mean to make this into a joke, but more seriously, so the actual wedding was done on the Bedi, but the Kohabar was a room where these rituals used to be done. And in fact, the family deities used to be installed over there. And you would have read earlier on that it also said that here in the Ramayan, that the family deities were installed in this Kohabar where all the rituals were done. So these are some of the post-wedding activities that we have read about this evening, and you will read more as we continue with our satsang. So यहाँ पर आज इस कथा का हम विश्राम देते हैं. आइए हम पाठ से विश्राम करें. कथा विसर्जन होता है, सुनहु वीर हनुमान, आसन को प्रभु जाइए, सिया सखा सहित भगवान, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय.
कोटि काम हारे। हलक की बलन पलक की छलन, पीत पति हवन लतक सुंदर वनमाला की। सांवरिया नयन विशाला की, आरती रघुवर लाला की। सांवरिया नयन विशाला की, आरती रघुवर लाला की। सांवरिया नयन विशाला की। अंग सिय शोभा की खानी, विराजे जगत जननी रानी। प्रेम भक्ति रस की दानी, भरत से वीर लखन रणधीर। प्रजा की भीर शत्रुघ्न रूप रसाला की। सांवरिया नयन विशाला की, रघुवर लाला की, सांवरिया नयन विशाला की। सदा तुम दीन हितकारी, अधम के वट शबरी तारी। गीत किए कर्म गति न्यारी, सुरन को ईश कौशलाधीश। रक्ष जगदीश शंभु हृदय सुख पाला की, सांवरिया नयन विशाला की। आरती रघुवर लाला की, सांवरिया नयन विशाला की। आरती रघुवर लाला की, सांवरिया नयन विशाला की। चरण सेवत अंजन केला, प्रेम रस बाटत दीन दयाल। बरस रही पुष्पों की जय माल, बात भय हर सदा सुख करन। हरि ले शरण जानकी नाथ कृपाला की, सांवरिया नयन विशाला की। आरती रघुवर लाला की, सांवरिया नयन विशाला की। आरती रघुवर लाला की, सांवरिया नयन विशाला की। आरती रघुवर लाला की, सांवरिया नयन विशाला की।
कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि। ॐ मङ्गलं भगवान् विष्णु मङ्गलं गरुडध्वज मङ्गलं पुण्डरीकाक्ष मङ्गलाय तनोहरि। ॐ सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बिके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। नारायणी नमोस्तुते। नारायणी नमोस्तुते। Place your arti down and sprinkle water around it. Om yani kani cha papani janmantar kritani cha tani tani vinashyanti pradakshina pade pade. Put your palms together. We're going to do Visarjan and appeal for blessings and ask for forgiveness from Bhagwan. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Tuka Bhak Bhavet. Om Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamsoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamidah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. So if possible, please bow down at your altar. Om Apradha Sahasrani Krihante Har Nishangmaya Dasoyam iti mamatva chamasva parameshwara. Om Avahanam na janami visarjanam pujancheva na janami kshamasva parameshwara. Om anyatha sharanam nasti tvam eva sharanam mama tasmat karunya bhavena rakshatvam parameshwara. बोलिए विघ्नहर्ता गणेश भगवान की जय। श्री राधे कृष्ण भगवान की जय। श्री शिव शंकर भगवान पार्वती माता की जय। श्री सीताराम चंद्र भगवान की जय। श्री लक्ष्मण जी की जय। श्री बजरंग बली महावीर स्वामी की जय। जग जगनी दुर्गा काली लक्ष्मी सरस्वती माता की जय। श्री लक्ष्मी नारायण भगवान की जय। श्री सनातन धर्म की जय। सब पितर देव की जय। ओम नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव हर। जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे।